and good day. Welcome to Queenships Live, and you're listening to Queenship, where we talk to women who are beautiful on the inside and out, walking with you on your transformative journey to your highest purpose. And good day again. So, one thing that I get a lot is, where you been? Where you been? You moved away. You live somewhere else. Where you been? Where you been hiding? Where you been hiding? And I remember one response that I made was, I haven't been hiding. I just moved different. I haven't been hiding. I just moved different. So no, you're not gonna see me around because I'm focusing on my purpose. I'm focusing on pouring into myself. You're gonna see me less, yes. A lot of people that used to have access to me don't anymore. I've set boundaries with them. They know to be careful with how they approach me, how they speak to me, how they speak around me. A lot of people will hold me to my past, a version of myself that I'm no longer, because that's all they have over me, a reality that I don't live anymore, a reality that I don't exist in anymore. Even if they hear the good things that go on in my life, it's interesting how some people will hear bad news and that will be the thing that gets passed on. But when they hear good news, they stay hush. They stay quiet. They stay silent about it. I come to you today to speak about being okay with change. It will feel uncomfortable at first because you've never been this version of yourself. This is a new version of yourself. You've never seen somebody, like, say you've never seen somebody who's ever walked in the shoes that you wish to walk in. It may feel uncomfortable being that for yourself, being that representative for yourself. I'm actually in the process of leveling up. I'm in the beginning stages of leveling up. And it's no shade to people that I'm good friends with. If you see me less and if you don't have access to me, it's for good reasons. I don't need people thinking that they can contact me at any time. I don't need people thinking they can step into my space without checking to see if um I'm even in a good space to be approached. Check my temperature. When you set a boundary where that's automatic for people, where they and where you set a standard when it comes to how people speak to you and who you have around you, your experiences become more quality. You end up attracting more quality experiences and more quality people because you set a standard for yourself. I I'm seen when I want to be seen. I go out when I want to go out. I don't go out all the time because I do have priorities outside of socializing, and I do wish to socialize. You know, that's why I work now so that I have more time later versus playing now while I have the energy and while I have youth on my side. You know, all this energy, I'm not gonna have the same energy. I'm not gonna be able to work. I'm not gonna be able to take on as much of a load that I can right now because as you age, you're gonna need to have a bad time. You're gonna need to have a bad time. You're gonna need to take on less work. I've never been 40, but I heard that's when you're at your peak. But I assume that's mentally, not physically. I mean, some people, like, if you take care of yourself, if you really take care of yourself, you might be able to carry more weight than a young person. But like I said, youth is on your side. This is when you can do the most. This is when you can stay up the latest. This is when your workload can be all day, every day, and your burnout will be at a minimum or it won't be as drastic. You know, you wanna be able to rest when you can. I changed my priorities and made myself a priority. I want to be an example for ladies who may be suffering with burnout or be addicted to saying yes when you know you can't. You already made plans for the weekend. Why are you saying yes to this thing over here? That will breed disappointment when you say yes to this person and you also say yes to this person so you can't make it her, but you end up going over her. But that experience wasn't even worth it all the way. 100% worth your energy, time, or acknowledgement. You know, I'm cultivating a family. I'm building relationships, meaningful relationships. Positioning myself to be put in rooms with very important people, like I have been doing. But I I guess you can say a gap year. I took a few gap years. I took a few gap years, but I came back better than if I was to just keep going. I would have been burnt out, down and out. My mind wouldn't be as sharp. I'd be dedicated and ambitious but have no energy. What use is that? You know, I have students and I want to be a leading example for them. Not by talking about it, but by being about it and letting my life be the proof that they need to better their lives, better themselves. I saw one of my students, she said she was fine, but she didn't look it. You know, you end up looking like your decisions. And then she was into she was into some things, you know. Her decisions have shown up in a very destructive way where it distorted your view of who she is, you know. But mostly teenagers, all they need is a representative. All they need is guidance. All they need is somebody who cares and who cares enough to show them light. Like, this is the way, this is how you're supposed to behave, this is how you're supposed to dress, this is the lifestyle that you want to adopt, because this is going to deplete your energy, this is going to make you sick, this is going to make you throw up when you don't want to be throwing up in front of people. This is gonna end up making you look older than you are. You don't want to look older than you are. You want to look as young for as long as you can. I had a 50-year-old man trying to guess my age. His like, oh, it don't look like you're old enough to be riding a bike or being out this late. He said something where it's like, oh, you don't look old enough to be doing this thing. And I'm like, I laughed because I'm like, I'm almost 30. I'm almost 30 years old. What you mean? You know? And he's looking like, what? What? Confused, baffled. You don't look like you're almost 30. I mean, now that you tell me that, I can't even. I said, you don't even look old enough to ride a bike. You're old enough to drive a car, but not tall enough to see up the steering wheel. You're enough to ride a bike, drive a car, and go to the club in the States. You know, that's from taking care of yourself mentally, on a mental, physical, emotional level. I keep looking up because I live like the highway is up there. I live on like a hill. I'm like above the people down here, but below the people up there. And you can easily look down here. You know, got a nice view and all that stuff from him right now. I work in a few minutes. I'm about to leave soon. But I thought to come on, hop on, and share a message. Because that's what it's about, right? I really, initially, I wanted to come here and talk about my energy shift. Because I didn't say when I was in my masculine energy, I was engaged in marketing and sales. But then when I made that real energy shift, I mean, I was already learning about feminine energy and all type of stuff, but when I actually started to embody feminine energy, I felt out of that ambitious hustle vibe where I'm selling. I didn't feel like selling. I didn't feel like selling products that I don't really believe in. I mean, I use one of my products, but I just stopped selling them. I use this every day. It's a waterproof film bag, and I also had a portable. If it's in here, I carry it. Like I actually used these. Actually, no, I don't have it in here. I did. I cleaned up this bag, but it was a portable charger that you can plug into your phone. It was a portable fan that you can plug into your phone. The only thing about it is that it kills your battery faster than you'd like it to kill your battery. And it only works when your phone's on. So I don't really believe in the product. Um, so I stopped selling it. And when I made that shift, my focus became more on cultivating meaningful relationships, building relationships, starting a family, creating more. I'm more creative. I create more content. I'm more into writing and designing and art and performing arts. You know, I stepped back into who I truly am and who I said I wanted to be when I was a kid. You know, and I started showing up on YouTube. You know, social media. And I never know if anybody's gonna watch these. I just record them. And somebody does, I hope you grow from it. I hope you learn from it. I hope you're inspired and motivated. And I hope you learn something. Because that's why I do what I do. I love to teach. I'm a natural born leader. And I say that because I'm a Leo. And Leos are natural born leaders. And I INTJ. My personality type is an INTJ. But leadership looks different for women. We influence, we inspire. I'm not gonna force a message down your throat. I'm just gonna come on here and talk. Just chat. If you choose to listen, well, that's on you. If you choose not to, that's also on you. I noticed that I can't always be there for all of my students. I try to be, you know, like one of my students, she got taken away from her mom at 7, and that could be very difficult during it could be even more difficult. That situation could become more difficult around Mother's Day, and I try to reach out to her on Mother's Day, you know, but if that's how I'm not sure how my students really perceive me, so I don't really know how I can show up for them. I know once I started, I was still in that masculine energy, and I started to make that shift a little later on when I had already left. I mean, I was still working on myself while I was their teacher, but I became more myself after I had left, after I had to leave. So they never got the best of me. They never got the best out of me. So I guess God wanted me to reserve that for my chosen family, the family that I'm calling in and bringing in and manifested in my life. But I always love to come on here and chat. I always feel like I have something to say. I always feel like I have valuable thoughts, and I feel like somebody needs to hear them. Thoughts, your mind is meant to create thoughts, not to hold on to them. You hold on to memories, not thoughts. You know, after you have the thought, your mind already did its job. So you put it somewhere and you write it down, you record it, you teach somebody. That's you making use of your mind, and you making use of your time, and hopefully, you bring value to somebody else's life. That's what life is all about, right? Being Becoming valuable so you can be of use, but not to be used, right? But that's all I have to say for today. And I'll be seeing you guys another time. Peace.